Hi, welcome back. I'm Bree. Today's video is going to be reading short novellas. So I have 5 here. I want to see if I can get into like short books and novellas because I haven't really dove into it except for reading A Psalm for the Wild Built and maybe, in the Every Heart a Doorway series by Shauna McGuire. And I really love the Every Heart a Doorway series, or the Wayward Children series, and I really did like A Psalm for the Wild Built, so I feel like it's a type of book I could really get into. Now, genre and things obviously have to take into account, but I really like the short format. I think horror I want to try mystery, and maybe like fantasy, like fairy tale-y type stories. So, first book I picked up is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second in the Monk and Robot series. Like the Psalm for the Wild Built was the first one. And this one just released recently, so I definitely want to get to it. I'm going to be buddy reading this with my husband, so this is going to be the first book I'm going to pick up. And this follows a monk and robot as they take on some philosophy of life. Then I have this book that I picked up a while ago. It is the Honjin Murders by Sashi Komizo, and this is a classic Japanese mystery. So this was written in 1937. It is like kind of in the era of like Agatha Christie and stuff, so I'm really interested to see how a Japanese like mystery, how I could get into it, and it's very short, so I thought it'd be perfect for this short reading vlog. I have a short horror, Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. I've been really intrigued by this one, and I want to see if short horror is something I can get into. This is about a woman in a seemingly perfect marriage in a perfect like gated community, so that's all I want to know about that going in. Then got Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This one just released very recently too. And it's like it's not really a fairy tale retelling. It's more of like just a fairy tale story that T. Kingfisher made up. And it's about this woman who is a princess and her sister is like in a bad marriage and she wants to kill the prince. And she goes on a quest to do that. And it sounds really good. And then I have a Spindle Splintered, which is a tongue twister, by Alex E. Harrow. It's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and it's following a girl in the real world, and then she thinks she gets swept up in a story about Sleeping Beauty. And I don't really know more than that, but I just know it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling. So I'm really interested to see if true retellings I could really like, or if like just a made-up fairy tale is more for me. And I think this one sounds darker than this one. This one seems more fantasy, and this one seems like darker fantasy, if that makes sense. Either way, I'm excited. So these are the books I'm going to be reading. I'm going to start with this one and then we'll see where I go from there. But I will be checking in with you as I go along. Hello. I am going to be picking up A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second in the Monk and Robot series. It's a short novella basically about T-Monk and Dex, and they go into the forest to search for like just happiness that they're not finding. And then they meet Moscap, who is a robot, and it's trying to answer the question of what do humans need. They kind of discuss life and things like that, and this is the second book to that, and I'm really liking it. I'm at page 28. I'm gonna sit here and read, and I'll let you know how I feel about it at the end, but so far it's still got the same really cozy vibes that I found in the first one, so I'm happy with it, and the writing is still really good, and the world building. Becky Chambers is so good at just creating this vivid world. And it's kind of like it's still Earth, sort of. Like it's reminiscent of Earth, but in ways where the environment is much more protected and people like live in their environment. So like in this, they're in right now in a town where they're kind of in like the trees, and it's talking about how they forage and they do all this stuff. It's just really cool. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, so I'm going to sit here and read and I'll let you know my thoughts in a little bit.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
Hello. It is bit later now, and I just finished Prayer for the Crown Shy, and I think I'm going to give this about 4.5 stars. I will say there's just something that doesn't make it a complete 5, and I think it's the sci-fi elements to me, because I'm just not a big sci-fi reader, but I really like this. I think that if you really like a book that's cozy and is a little bit slower, like not a lot of plot, but is just about like the cozy vibes, but you also like philosophy, I think this could be a book for you. There's a lot of just like discussion about what it means to be human and what do humans need and how to interact with the world and do your part in the world, and also like how humans affect the earth and things like that. So I think there's a lot of good conversations in here, and if you enjoy like the philosophy side of things, then you could really like this book. I think that it's the exact length it needs to be. I think if this was a 300-page book, I would not be into it, but the fact that they're novellas, I think, make them really good. And I think this is going to be the last one. I think it's just the first and second, but I'm not 100% on that. It just seemed like maybe from the acknowledgments that these were going to be the two. And I thought this one was better than the first one, not from like writing or things like that. I feel like it was very consistent throughout the two, but I think for me this one was better because I already know Dex and Moscap, and so the second book made me happy to be back with them, so therefore I liked them more than the first one, where the first one I was getting to know them. This one felt like coming back to a really cozy story instead of just like the beginnings of a cozy story. That makes sense. So I think I'm gonna give this 4.5. It does a lot of things I really like in here, like I like reading about philosophy, I like cozy stories, I like just characters that come together and you see them and their dynamic. It was kind of a found family, even though it's not really a found family. They like come together and they lean on each other and things like that, and it's a really good like friendship story. That's what I'm looking for, and I really like those elements. But I think if I were to take this book out and put it in a different book, I don't know if I would like it. I think just all the things Becky Chambers put together in here was so well done that in another book I just don't know if it would have the same impact as it did for me. Hello, it has been a few days. I took a break this weekend. I was feeling still burnt out from summer reading and traveling and everything, so I haven't checked in, but I did make it to page 100. Nope, I made it to page 78 in Nettle and Bone, and I'm hoping to get through more of it today. I just wanted to stop so I could update the video, and I'm really liking it so far. I think most of the synopsis has kind of happened, so I'm interested to see like where it's gonna go. So it starts off with the main character Mara as she's like doing these impossible tasks. Then it flashes back to when she's younger and like what led up to the events that set her off right now. So we're getting like some flashbacks and some forward, but it's mostly in the past going forward, but you get little like snippets from the present. And now I think it's gotten to the point where it's going to be the present all the way, the rest of the way through. And I really like our main character Mara. I think she's an interesting perspective to follow. And then her sister Kanya we get like glimpses of, and I just think the way we're seeing Mara's family through Mara's eyes is interesting. There's just a lot in this book already that's like making Mara have to rethink what she knows and what she's thought of her whole life. So I find that interesting, but I will let you know my thoughts when I've finished it. But I'm having a good time. I'm really enjoying the writing, the spookiness, darkness, and I'm not a big fairy tale person when it's very like lyrical, but I think this is not that way. It's darker, but it's very easy to understand what's going on. So I'm enjoying that part of it. Hello, I wanted to update because I just finished Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and I think I'm going to give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good, like, dark fairy tale story. I just enjoyed all the characters and the adventure. I feel like this is one of those stories that you kind of know what you're getting into from the beginning, and so it's not much of twists and turns. It's more just like for the good vibes, and I thought that this was just like set a mood really well. I liked the conversations around being a princess and being like, one, like for women to be used just to produce heirs, and then also being a pawn in these different games when you're like in royalty and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting, and I think it was just a good story about a sister like going and trying to help her sister in a scenario that feels like there's no real winning from. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's just not a 5-star because it just was a little slower for me than what I usually like, and I'm not usually into like completely fairy tale stories, but I really enjoyed this one. So that's 2 novellas down for this novella reading vlog, and I think the next one I'm going to pick up is Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. This is like a horror novella, but I think it has some kind of like fantastical elements to it. I don't want to know anything because it's only 100 pages, and I did watch a reading vlog about it once, and I think I kind of got a little bit spoiled for what happens in here, but that's fine. I feel like it's short enough that I still want to see how I like it and if the execution of it is good. So I'm going to read this, and then I'll check back in later when I have finished it.
We got it. We don't need no more. Even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm.
I just finished Comfort Me with Apples, and I like this so much more than I thought I was going to. So I did know the ending. I was right that it was kind of spoiled. They said something about it that made me guess the ending, and it wasn't that they were being spoilery. It was just that I was like, oh, I think I know what's going on with this, and I was very correct about it, but still, it was great. It starts, the very first sentence is, I was made for him, and it's just about her life with her husband, and it's like a seemingly perfect life at this, what is it, like community, what like an association, like a home association, and it's just about her living there in this perfect place, and things start happening, and that's all I'll say. It's very, very quick. I really liked it. I've read Catherine M. Valente before, but I've only read her Fairyland series, which is a middle grade, like kind of nonsensical story. So this is the first like adult thing I've read, and I really liked it. Like, I think I'm gonna give this 5 stars because even though I knew what was gonna happen, it just unsettled me the whole time, and it just has this weird feeling to it the whole time that you just feel gross. And it's just the way she writes just depicts that so vividly for me, and it was just, I flew through it. I'm definitely gonna pick up more of her adult stuff if she has any, and even though this is so short, I think I might want to pick it up at some point because I really, really like this. This is a new favorite novella, and this is where I could see that novellas could work for me, especially in more of like a horror suspense category, because it's over so quickly that I just think it lends itself well to the kind of horror I would want to consume, because like my problem with My Heart is a Chainsaw was like it was just too long. So this was like the perfect length for this kind of story. And so I wouldn't really call it super, super horror. So if you're someone who gets scared easily, like I do, I didn't think it was that kind of horror. It was just unsettling. I'm really happy I picked this up for this. 5 stars. Wow, a new favorite. Who would have thought? Hello, welcome to the next book of this reading vlog, and that is going to be The Honjin Murders by Seishi Kokomizo. This is set in 1937. This was actually written around that time, I believe in 1937, and it was recently translated, but it's supposed to appeal to readers of Agatha Christie, and it's the start of a longer series. It's a Japanese like murder mystery, and it was written in Japanese and then has been translated. So it's about a famous detective, Kosuke Kindachi, and it's like the first investigation, and apparently it's a wedding is happening of this like rich family, and then on the night of the wedding there is a body that's killed, and it's killed with a bloody samurai sword, but there's no trace of evidence or anything like that. And so the amateur detective, Kosuke, he has to investigate and figure out what happened. I've heard that there's a better place to start in the series, but I had seen this and picked this up, and so I thought it was a really good opportunity because of it being so short. I feel like it's good like tester to see if I'll like this, but I like Agatha Christie's and like classic mysteries, so I don't think I'll be super picky. They also give you a little character list at the beginning that breaks down the characters, which I think is really helpful because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of characters in here. Hi, it's been a couple of days, but I wanted to update you because I just finished The Honjin Murders by Seishi Yokomizo. It took me a couple of days, and I think Partly it was the type of book. It's a detective fiction. And I think partly just I was not in the mood to read. This is a classic murder mystery. It's a classic novel, just like Agatha Christie and stuff. It was written, I think, in around the 40s. I'm kind of confused about that because it says that he won the award for this book in 1948, but then this says that it was originally published in Japan in 1973. So I'm confused. But it was written a while ago, but it was written about 1937, but it wasn't written in 1937 like I originally thought. But this is following Detective Kozuki Kindachi, and he is like solving this case that is like a locked room mystery, seemingly impossible murder. It has all the remnants of like the classic whodunit stories, like Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, things like that, and it's definitely like the Japanese take on it, which I thought was interesting. The translation, I don't know if this was added in here or if this was actually part of the original story, but there's a lot of things where it was like talking about like a window that they were peering through that was like a traditional Japanese window. It's described by saying like, in Japan this was this kind of window. I should have tapped it so I could actually talk about it more, but it seems like maybe the translation knew that some readers wouldn't know these things and so added it in, but I'm also not sure if that was just part of the original narrative. So I found that interesting. So things I found interesting about it, and I'm not sure how I feel, is one, it's written like almost by like a journalist. I think they said who they were, but I also can't remember if they said who they were. So it's written like, here, let me tell you this story now that it's finished. It's not really in even like a Sherlock Holmes and Watson where Watson's like with Sherlock the whole case. This is just someone who's like, here's all the details of this murder case and I'm going to tell them to you. And I found that interesting, and in some ways I kind of liked it, and in other ways it kind of separated me from the story. And I was told that I shouldn't have started with this one, that I think it's called the Inugami Curse, and I think that's the one most people start with that is better. I think I'm going to give this 3 stars. I feel like it was short enough that I was intrigued. It didn't drag on too much. So I feel like this is similar to like a lot of Agatha Christie with like the Poirot series, which I tend to give like 3 stars because it's just very like matter of fact to the point, where like Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None I really like because it kept me guessing the whole time. I think that just the traditional detective stories I don't find as engaging, but I feel like it's really interesting because there's so many nods to the classic stories in here, and it's clearly part of that classic storytelling of the time. And so I think it's like really cool to see a Japanese version of this because I have only read Western versions of this. Now, I also want to recognize that like this is a translated work from Japanese. There's probably things I don't understand in here, or things that if I was part of Japanese culture I could have identified more with. And so this is probably has to do also with me as a reader, being a white American reader reading this. So I just want to like point that out, and I don't think it's anything to say that the story is bad or anything. I don't think that. I actually had a good time with it. So I just wanted to mention that. I definitely want to try the Inugami Curse because I am interested to see where the series goes. So it's a little bit later now, and I just wanted to pop in really quick to say that I'm starting my final book for this short book novella reading vlog, and that is going to be a Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Hero. I have another Alex E. Hero on my TBR, and that is The Once Future Witches, so I wanted to try this one as a little shorter form, and this is supposed to be like Sleeping Beauty retold, because Sleeping Beauty is like one of the worst of the princesses for like she has like the least amount of lines, I want to say, or maybe that's Snow White, but she has like almost no lines and is just really not a popular character and isn't given a lot of agency. That's the word I was looking for. But it's only 115-ish pages, so I'm excited to get to it. And I know that she has like a second one that came out really recently, and I think it's going to be like different princess stories retold. So I'm not sure what the next one is, but I've been liking novella series like the Wayward Children series, so I'm excited to give this a shot and let you know what I think. So I want to talk about Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Hero. I read this last night and I just wanted to come back on and update about it. I think I'm going to give this 3 stars. So this is a Beauty and no, this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. I think that the story itself was pretty good. Like for a novella, it was not overly complicated. I felt like it tied up a lot of things, though there are a lot of like world building stuff that are left not understood. But I know this is a series, so like maybe that'll get explained more later. But from the first page, you see that it's going to have chronic illness representation. The main character herself, Zinnia, is dying, and she has like this rare disease that it's not a real disease, but it's one that she will die by her 21st birthday. And so she's like talking a lot about how people view her and things like that, and just what it's like to be, as she calls herself, the dying girl. So I was excited at the very beginning that it was going to have chronic illness representation and things like that. Now, my chronic illness is not fatal or anything like that, but I just feel like I don't get a lot of chronic illness representation in books, so I was excited. But the thing I have to critique is Zinnia didn't have a personality outside of her illness. Like everything in the story was about her being, as she calls herself, the dying girl. There's so much opportunity to like make her into a full character here and not just focus on that, and yet it was the only focus. As someone in the chronic illness community, it is like something that is like you don't want to be seen as just your illness, or people don't take your illness seriously. Now with her, she's like dying and I don't have an illness like that. But I just felt like there was so much more opportunity to discuss things than what was discussed in here. So that really like let me down. So the last thing I had an issue with, I'm not going to go too in depth because it will be spoilers, but is the ending. I just wasn't a fan of it and how it relates to chronic illness. And I just think that that was like something that I've just never liked in books that feature chronic illness. And I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. So 3 stars for me, but I'm happy I read it and now I know. So I don't think I'll be continuing with this series. It just doesn't seem like it's for me. So these are the books I read for this little short book novella readathon. I went into it and I didn't really discuss throughout the time I was reading, but I really want to figure out what I enjoy in books, and especially short books. I want to see what I can get into with them. And so I did think I learned a decent amount. I feel like short mysteries, I don't know if they're necessarily for me. I think I want a little bit longer in mysteries just because I think you need to flesh out a little bit more things. But I had a good time with this and I'm happy I read it, and I'll be continuing on with the series. I think retelling stories could be for me, but they just have to do it in a certain way. So I liked the darkness of this. I liked the adventure part and stuff, and I think the commentary on like women's roles was better than this one. This one really comes down to representation. So I'm down to try retellings again. I really like T. Kingfisher book, so I think I'm going to definitely be continuing on with reading T. Kingfisher. I don't know how I feel about sci-fi, so feel like a sci-fi book this short is like really maybe the only way I would want to go right now. But I think little cozy stories like this would be perfect for a novella, and I could really pick that stuff up more. A short horror, I could really get into this. Like I really liked it. Now it depends on what kind of horror, but this one wasn't that scary for me, but I loved this. Like this one is my favorite book of this vlog. I think if I'm going to rank them, wow, I actually kind of put them in order already. So I think Comfort Me with Apples is the top, then it would be A Prayer for the Crown Shy, then Nettle and Bone, then the Honjin Murders, and then A Spindle Splintered. I feel like I'm learning about my taste, so just want to say thank you for watching, and if you want to leave a comment down below and tell me if you read novellas, and if so, like what your favorite novella is, I would love to hear it and get recommendations. So yeah, thank you for watching, and until next time.